Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on Despia Dogmatika. Well, technically you could call this Despia Dogmatika Albaz since I am still using that engine into the strategy. And especially because the Albaz Structure Decks are coming out next month, I'm really excited for those. So bear in mind, I will actually bring you guys a budget deck profile once that comes out. But anyway, so Despia's is pretty interesting considering that it is technically a combo deck. It does use some control aspects. And interestingly enough, out of all the fusion decks that I've ever played, this is probably the grindiest ones I've ever got the opportunity of actually enjoying. And honestly, like, it's pretty rare for a fusion deck to be this grindy. I mean, yeah, Shadal's is kind of the same ordeal, but this one I feel like just does it a little bit better. So anyway, I'll get to more detail on that later on. But yeah, Despia is crazy good. I definitely think that this deck has a lot of tier 1 potential, again, because of the Albaz Structure decks. And there's going to be a new fusion spell called Branded Fusion, so we'll definitely take good advantage of that. But anyway, like I said before, I had to rearrange this deck accordingly to deal with the current meta because Bird Up is no longer here. So they lost a lot of their big combo pieces like Samorg. I forgot which of the Xyz monsters, the Lyrilisk ones that got limited. But anyway, and then there's some cards that came back. Skill Drain at 3, and Elage is definitely going to take advantage of that. So anyway, Sword Soul's still in the format too, so I had to prepare for that. So yeah, a lot of things going on there, and we're in like a really nice, diverse format, which I personally enjoy. So anyway, let's go and get started. So main deck, as always, is going to be 40 cards, starting off with 3 copies of Albaz Jester Despia. So when this card is normal special summon, you basically get to add any branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is really critical considering that these branded spells or traps are basically your fusion spells. It also has a cool graveyard effect where, like, if one of your fusion monsters is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard by a card effect, specifically your opponent's, you get to special summon this card by targeting one effect monster your opponent controls, and you get to negate that target's effects. So really good way just to kind of like get a free body off. Oh, get a free body back out. And also keep in mind, you can only use one of Albaz's effects once per turn and only once that turn. So you can't, it's not that broken. But yeah, still good, has a weird form of disruption and just really good for follow-up. Moving on, 3 copies of Despian Tragedy. So if this card is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect, you can add any Despia monster from your deck to your hand except itself. Also, if this card is in your graveyard, you get to banish it and reset any one of your branded spells or traps. Bear in mind, it has the same clause as Albaz, so you can only use one of his effects per turn and only once that turn. Now, the next card, I actually had to bump it down to 1 simply because I kind of want to adjust my ratios just to see what I liked better. But I'm sure it's going to change drastically, especially, again, with the Albaz Structure decks coming out. This deck's going to take on a new page, and yeah, the ratios are going to be way different later on. But for right now, I am running 1 copy of Dramaturge of Despia. So if a Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link monster is special summon, you can target 1 effect monster on the field, negate its effects. Now keep in mind, it already has to be on the field when to resolve this, but it also does have a way to bring itself out. So if it's used as fusion material, whether sent from the hand or field to the grave by a card effect, or even banished, you get to special summon this card. And yeah, it's just a free 3k body. So really nice overall. And yeah, Dramaturge is just really nuts. And again, it's searchable through Despian Tragedy. Next, 1 copy of Ad Libitum of Despia. So this came out in Burst of Destiny, and for those who don't know what it does, during your main phase, you can make all monsters currently on the field gain attack equal to their level times 100. So basically, it's a good power boost for your fusion monster, especially if you're going to use Despian Quaritas, where it basically powers down everything. Ad Libitum is a good way just to like chain and then just, yeah, you could basically, well, not chain because it's not a quick effect, but you could basically use that to power up your monsters again. But anyway, if this card is used as fusion material and sent to the graveyard or banished, you can target one of your Despia monsters or a level 8 or higher fusion monster that is banished or in your graveyard, except itself. You can special summon that card. So a good way just to kind of like bring back some of your bigger bosses or just something else in place of it. So Ad Libitum does come up quite a bit. But yeah, not too bad. All right, so moving on. Running 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz this time, simply because it's a super poly on legs. And again, I'm just kind of hyping up for the structure deck. But Fallen of Albaz does need to come out quite a bit, especially because like some of your fusion monsters can easily bring this out. So not just like Titanic Clad or Albion. You also have Despian Quaritas, where if it's, goes to the graveyard, you get to bring out a Fallen of Albaz as a kind of like a good follow-up, basically. And of course, can't forget Albion, the Shrouded Dragon, which basically also counts as Fallen of Albaz. But one thing I love about this card is that it has a really cool graveyard effect. It also works in the hand too, but based on whatever you sent will determine its effect. So here's how it works. So this card becomes Fallen of Albaz while on the field in the grave. We already know this. And if this card is in your hand or in your graveyard, you can either send one Fallen of Albaz or branded spell or trap from your hand or your deck to the grave and apply one of its following effects. If you send from the hand, you get to special summon this card. If you send from the deck, you can place this card to the bottom of the deck and then you get to draw one card. So it always recycles itself. So I feel like putting it down to one rather than playing it two was the correct call. Because again, you can easily bring this out. It's not that hard. And also has a really cool interaction with one of my trap cards, which we'll get to momentarily. But yeah, Albion is really good. So definitely don't scoff at it. It also synergizes pretty well as free discard fodder for your Super Poly. So like if you go Super Poly, discard this for cost, you can use its effects after that resolves. So I think it's pretty funny. Now for the Dogmatika package, I'm running 2 copies of Ecclesia this time simply because Nadir Servant didn't go down to 2, and it most likely will go down to 1 on the next ban list. So, but yeah, 2 Ecclesia is fine because, you know, like the fact that if you're going second, if there's already an extra deck monster out, you could just special summon this and get your Dogmatika engine going. So you can also normal summon it too. But yeah, she basically searches out your Dogmatika cards, and yeah, definitely a good way to just get Maximus into your hand or Fleur de Lis if you have to. So there's just so many good things you can do with Ecclesia. And she can't be destroyed in battle by a monster summoned from the extra deck. So pretty nice just to kind of like stall out for time. Still running 1 Maximus because, you know, it's Maximus. You know, you definitely want to get your cards into the graveyard. And 1 Fleur de Lis is another form of disruption. So, and he's big, so why not? All right, for hand traps, still running 3 copies of Ash Blossom. I mean, it's Ash. It's one of the most generic cards we have. And of course, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre, which is really good this format, considering that a lot of decks are running Appaloosa, and not to mention against Sword Soul, I've mentioned this before, as soon as they activate one of their effects, just hit them with Ogre, and they can't really do much with the token. So yeah, you can definitely put a dent on your opponent's plays. All right, so now we're moving on to spells. 3 copies of Branded Opening. So one thing I love about this is that it's a quick play spell, and you can actually drop this during your draw phase. You can discard 1 card, not cost by the way, and take 1 Despia monster from your deck, and either add it to your hand, or you can special summon it in defense mode. Of course, you are going to be locked into fusion monsters once you resolve this, but honestly, that's fine considering that you are going to be primarily using fusion monsters anyway. And if one of your fusion monsters is destroyed or is in danger of being destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can just banish this card and protect it. Next, 2 copies of Despia Theater of the Branded. It's a pseudo fusion gate plus Monster Reborn, so yeah, definitely want to take advantage of it. And it does have branded in the name, so it is searchable through Elibur. 2 branded in red. You can target 1 Despia monster or Fallen of Albaz in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and then you can apply the following effect. Fusion summon 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing the fusion materials listed on it from your hand or your field, but it cannot attack directly this turn. But most of the time, you generally activate this during the opponent's turn anyway, just to kind of like wall up, or just to disrupt them, depending on what you're trying to bring out. But overall, branded in red, pretty good. And I'm still running the 1 copy of branded in white. A card I greatly underestimated the first time around, so I figured, you know what, it definitely deserves a spot. But you basically have to fusion summon from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a dragon monster. And then, of course, if you use Fallen of Albaz, you can actually banish the materials from your graveyard as well. So pretty nice. Next, 2 copies of Super Poly, just because, you know, it can't be responded, and it's a good way to out DPE. And I mentioned before that Nadir Servant is now semi-limited, which honestly, I think they should have just put it at 1 anyway, but it's whatever. I mean, I still like the fact that 2 is perfectly fine, so might as well. Next, 2 Triple T and 1 Call by the Grave, just because I feel like these are the best ratios. Now, if you don't have Triple T, there are budget alternatives. You can run Allure of Darkness, funny enough, because it actually synergizes with Despian Tragedy. Or you could run a Pot of Avarice just to recycle all your cards. So yeah, there's like other draw spells that you can run. And then for the remainder of our 1-ofs, 1 Foolish Burial and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster just to deal with back row heavy strategies. Again, thank God Imperial Order is banned, so never have to worry about that card ever again. But Skill Drain is there, so we definitely need to prepare ourselves. Next, 1 Screams of the Branded. So this is the card I was talking about earlier with Albion. So if you send this off Albion's effect while he was in the graveyard, you could trigger its end phase effect, where since it was sent to the graveyard to activate the effect of Fallen of Albaz, and Albion is Fallen of Albaz while in the grave, you get to reset this card. So it's a Monster Reborn for your fusion monster, so it's pretty nice. 1 Punishment, just because, you know, it is searchable through our Dogmatika package, and 1 Shaddoll Schism. So yes, that's the whole purpose of the Dogmatikas, because it basically makes your Shaddoll engine live. And Schism is definitely a great card to run. All right, So that rounds up the main deck. Now moving on to the extra deck. So as y'all already saw, I am running one copy of BLS. No, you don't actually have to run it. I just run it as a secondary win condition in case if I have to go that route. But yeah, you don't actually have to run this. You could run anything else if you want, honestly. But yeah, I just decided to throw them in because it's super easy to make. One Verity Anaconda is the only other Link monster I'm playing because, you know, gets me access to my fusion spells, mainly Super Poly for right now. But it'll definitely be a lot better if somehow it survives the next ban list. But overall, once the Albaz Structure Deck comes out, this card's also going to be pretty beast. So yeah. Next, 2 copies of Masquerade, the Blazing Dragon, I'm sorry. So basically, he's just there for burn damage. And what's really cool is that it basically forces your opponent to pay like 600 life points just to activate a card or an effect. So, and the fact that you can easily turbo out both of these, it's not too hard. So basically, you kind of lock your opponent into a state of, well, basically a state in the game that they don't really want to be. So they're going to try to get rid of this as soon as possible. So, and by the time they do spend up a lot of their life points, they're going to be in a position where, like, yeah, they're going to be vulnerable to no TK. But anyway, for right now, I decided to cut down Courageous to 1 simply because you really just need to sit on 1 just to power down your opponent's monsters. And keep in mind, this can easily be negated, so that's why I decided to just run 1. 1 Praskinian is another free monster to bring out. Well, not free monster, but easy monster to bring out. If it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can actually inflict damage to your opponent's monster equal to that monster's original attack or defense points, whichever is higher. So sorry, my tongue got a little stuck there. But it also can banish monsters out of your opponent's graveyard, or you can just revive them yourself. So it's pretty nasty, especially if you like out of important beasts like Destiny Hero, Destroy Phoenix, Enforcer. So like, yeah, if you destroy that, even if they declare the effect, keep in mind, DPE's effect does not target. So that means if you steal it, they have to actually special summon another Destiny Hero. So Praskinian can actually play around it. But anyway, moving on. 1 copy of Albion, which basically grants you another fusion summon. 1 Titaniclad, which you're most likely going to send us off with the Dogmatika package, simply because, you know, it searches out a Dogmatika card for you at the end phase. For other Super Poly targets, you know, 1 Starving Venom, 1 Predaplant Dragus Tapelia, and of course, can't forget the Shadal Engine, 1 Apicalone, 1 Construct, and 1 Winda. Let me bring that a little closer. There we go. All right. And then for our Dogmatika cards, well, not cards, but cards that you send off of Maximus sometimes, 1 Intess and 1 Cyframe Lord Omega. I mean, come on, we all saw this coming. All right. Now for my side deck, it's a little self-explanatory. I'm just going to go and bring them all out here. 3 Lancia, just to deal with like any form of banishment deck. So like Eldritch, you know, since their trap cards recycle themselves. 3 Token Collector, just to deal with Sword Souls. Drone Lockbird, I feel like is pretty good right now, especially because, you know, we still have Drytron still. Surprisingly, I didn't think they were going to make a rise ever again, but some people are actually starting to pick that up again. So, but it's also good against any other search heavy strategy too. 3 Cosmic Cyclone. I was tempted to go 2 Intester, but for this deck, I don't really want to discard too much because discarding would be cost, and my cards need to trigger by an effect, not by cost. So yeah, that's why I felt like Cosmic Cyclone was the better pick of the 2. 2 Evenly Matched, and of course 1 Red Reboot. And I figured, you know what, these are pretty good equalizers, so might as well take advantage of them. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys again next time.